April 11th, 1994. On a quiet hillside in Lüchong Village, a villager spots something floating in a pond. Police arrive, pull it from the water, and confirm the worst: a severely decomposed female body. The injuries suggest homicide. And in a place this small, the question isn't only who she is, it's who would have done this. With no clear identity at first, investigators move quickly to name the dead. Before long, the suspicion narrows toward one person: the missing woman's husband, She Xianglin. In interrogation, the story doesn't settle. Multiple shifting confessions appear, 4 different versions of how the murder happened. Despite unresolved doubts, the case closes. In June 1998, She Xianglin is sentenced to 15 years. Then, on March 28, 2005, an impossible message spreads through the county. Zhang Aiqing is back, alive. A DNA conclusion follows. The court urgently revokes prior judgments. And on April 1, 2005, She Xianglin walks out of prison. Before this became a national story, it began as a marriage under strain in rural Hubei. She Xianglin and Zhang Aiqing married on September 18, 1986. They later had a daughter. She worked in local public security-related roles, and the family lived a modest life, ordinary, with the quiet pressures that rarely make headlines. By 1993, the pressure around Zhang Aiqing intensified. The materials describe workplace uncertainty and mounting stress, alongside worsening mental health. She became anxious and forgetful. At times, she seemed confused, her thinking not steady, her mood unstable. At home, arguments became more frequent, and the relationship wore down in the most familiar way. One day after another, until the tension felt permanent. Shortly after New Year's Day of 1994, Zhang Aiqing disappeared. She Xianglin's explanation was simple. After a quarrel, she left in anger. But her family didn't believe it. In the middle of winter, they noticed her outer clothes were still at home, items she would be unlikely to leave behind if she had walked out on her own. Days passed, then a week. With no word, Zhang's mother had the family report her missing to police. For months, there was no clear answer, until the morning of April 11th. In Lüchong Village, a villager saw something unusual on the surface of a hillside pond. He and the village head confirmed it was a corpse and reported it. Police recovered the body of a young woman in advanced decomposition. The clothing offered no identifying items, nothing reliable that could settle who she was. Investigators documented the pond and the condition of the body. A surface examination noted multiple head injuries and a skull fracture. Forensic staff believed the wounds resembled blunt force trauma, but early on, the full sequence remained uncertain. The estimated time since death appeared long, possibly more than 2 months. That estimate raised another troubling question. If the pond wasn't truly isolated, if people passed by and even fished, how had the body not been noticed sooner? Even with unanswered questions, the case was treated as homicide, and the investigation moved fast. In cases like this, speed can feel like certainty. But speed can also lock the direction of a case before the facts have fully caught up. After the body was linked to Zhang Aiqing, the focus tightened immediately around her husband. The materials describe a forensic recheck that listed multiple physical features as matching Zhang's mother's description and treated the identification as confirmed. At the same time, doubts still lingered about timing, about the body's appearance in that specific pond, and about how the physical findings fit a single clean narrative. The task force made a decision. With limited trace evidence from the scene, no clear bloodstains, no usable footprints, no definitive physical trail, the priority became interrogation. The case would be built through statements. Officers questioned She Xianglin about his marriage and whether he had another woman. At first, he described the relationship as good. Then he admitted frequent quarrels. Later, he acknowledged a relationship connected to Gaoguan Reservoir, involving a woman with the surname Chen. Investigators used that point as leverage, pressing harder, aiming to break down resistance and force a final story into place. According to the materials, She's statements shifted repeatedly, producing 4 different versions of the killing. On April 15th, one account described him beating Zhang with a stick and burying her near a ditch. 2 days later, on April 17th, the story expanded. A friend entered the narrative, someone referred to as Wei, and the body was described as being thrown into a well. Then, on April 19th, the story changed again, this time involving Wei and a pond. The implication was clear. The location of disposal was now being aligned with what had actually been found in Lüchong Village. Investigators checked Wei's situation and concluded he could not have participated, citing illness supported by hospital proof and a doctor's statement. With Wei ruled out, the narrative shifted once more. On April 20th, a 4th version appeared, described in the materials as the complete confession. Zhang was taken to a gourd shed, struck near a pond, then placed in a bag weighed with stones and pushed into the water. That same day, a forensic report, identified in the materials as Fa Jianzi number 43, concluded she had been struck on the head with a blunt object, rendered unconscious, then thrown into water and drowned. In other words, the confession and the forensic conclusion now pointed in the same direction, at the same time, with the same sequence. After 10 days of interrogation, investigators took She Xianglin to identify the route and scene. The materials record that when he could not draw the route map, officers guided him to produce one. On the night of April 21st, the record states he led police to a gourd shed and then to a pond, indicating the disposal location. On April 22nd, the county police announced the case solved. Detention and arrest approvals followed. But the case did not stay stable. During prosecution review, the materials report that she recanted, telling a prosecutor the confession was forced and that he had been pressured into statements he could not stand behind. The police response, as reflected in the materials, emphasized procedure. They argued there was no torture. They also argued that time had passed, and it would be difficult to collect new evidence, suggesting the record itself was already becoming the case's main foundation. The first trial opened on October 7, 1994. Due to the family's poverty and travel difficulties, the court appointed a defense lawyer. In court, she maintained he did not kill Zhang and said police had beaten him. The presiding judge stated that the torture allegation would be considered in deliberation. On October 13th, the court issued a death sentence for intentional homicide. She appealed. On January 10, 1995, the Hubei High People's Court revoked the judgment and remanded the case for retrial, citing unclear facts and insufficient evidence. The ruling pointed to the core problem: 4 contradictory confessions and a lack of a complete chain of indirect evidence strong enough to close every gap. While the legal process dragged on, She's mother did something the system did not. She searched for Zhang Aiqing herself, village by village, across rough terrain. In December 1994, she heard of a mentally ill woman seen in Lüchong Village in Tianmen City. She obtained a stamped conscience certificate, dated December 30th, and submitted it to police. But the materials say officials considered it unreliable and decided to delay action. Years passed. In 1997, a coordination meeting chose a leniency for doubtful cases approach, an attempt to resolve the matter locally. On June 15, 1998, the Jingshan County Court sentenced She to 15 years. On September 22, the Intermediate Court rejected the appeal and upheld the sentence. She was sent to Xianyang prison to serve the term. From inside, he continued to petition. In those petitions, the materials describe claims of physical abuse during interrogation and the desperation to say whatever would end the suffering. In a case where the statements had shifted again and again, the record of how those statements were produced became a central question, one that would not be answered by paperwork alone. On March 28, 2005, a rumor spread through the county, one that sounded impossible. Zhang Aiqing had returned, alive. She did not go to She Xianglin's home. She went to her own family's doorway. Her relatives said they had once received a strange letter signed with her name, but the contents and handwriting seemed abnormal. They doubted it. They feared it might be a threat. And they never imagined the truth would be simpler and more devastating than any explanation they could invent. When the family learned that She Xianglin had already been imprisoned, they decided to report immediately. The report was escalated. Leaders ordered identity verification through recognition and scientific testing. The next day, a DNA conclusion confirmed what no one had been prepared to hear. The returned woman was Zhang Aiqing. The legal response moved faster than it ever had before. On March 30th, the Jingmen Intermediate People's Court urgently revoked the original first trial judgment and second trial ruling, ordered a retrial, and granted She Xianglin bail pending trial. On April 1, 2005, he walked out of Xianyang prison into a crowd of reporters. In the immediate aftermath, the materials describe what weighed on him most: his daughter. She had grown up without parents, her mother absent, her father imprisoned. Her schooling had been disrupted, and she left early to work away from home. It was not only one man's life that had been paused. A family timeline had been cut into before and after. On April 13th, the Jingshan County Court opened the retrial and pronounced She not guilty in court. Afterward, the materials say he went first to his mother's grave, believing she would not have suffered so much if not for this case. The documents also set a number on what had happened. From April 12, 1994, to April 1, 2005, She Xianglin lost his liberty for 3,995 days. Wrongful detention measured not in headlines, but in ordinary time. Seasons, birthdays, and school years that do not return. Compensation agreements followed in 2005. The materials describe payments from the Intermediate Court and the local police, along with government hardship assistance. A September 2005 agreement with the court listed 256,900 yuan, including burial costs for the unidentified female corpse. An October agreement with the police listed additional compensation: 226,000 yuan for She Xianglin, 4,000 yuan for his brother, compensation to family members related to his mother's death, and an additional 200,000 yuan hardship subsidy. A responsibility review was launched in 2005, and the materials describe disciplinary outcomes for some officials. But accountability on paper does not restore the years taken, or remove the fact at the center of the case. The victim was alive. This story ends where it truly begins, not with a confession, but with a single fact that collapses everything built around it. Zhang Aiqing returned, and with that return, the case was no longer a murder investigation. It was a record of how easily certainty can be manufactured, how quickly doubt can be managed away, and how long a wrongful conviction can hold, until reality itself walks back through the door.